it's Kim, and I'm here to expand on one of those tools in my top 5 most used tools that I use as a stay-at-home mom. I can't wait to dig into this. It is really what ties in everything for me as a full-time stay-at-home mom, full-time content creator, and a full-time photographer. But one of the tools that I mentioned in that video, which I will link down below in the description, is Audible. So this is a brand that I actively sought out. It is the first brand that I wanted to work with when it came to affiliate marketing, and there's a huge reason behind that, and this is it. It is because it really is my number one tool when it comes to my everyday functioning as a stay-at-home mom. It helps me balance out my attention, it helps balance out my chores, it helps keep me focused on the task at hand, and I can't wait to get into that with you guys. So as I mentioned before, this is the first brand that I have actively sought out. It was the first thing that I wanted in my Amazon storefront. It was the first thing that I wanted to be able to show you guys, because it has just been so impactful in the day-to-day functioning of my life as a stay-at-home mom. And we'll get into why that is. But as I stated, I will get a small commission, but if you go into the link in my bio, there are 2 links for Amazon. You can choose whichever one works best for you, but the first one is a gift membership, and that is great if you know a mom, or if you are a mom, if you want to gift it to your mom. It's a great gift for somebody who is constantly doing something but doesn't have a whole lot of time to sit and actually read. So for that, it's 1 month for $15, 3 months for $45, and 6 months for $90. And then there's also a 12-month for, I believe, $150. Sorry, I have my notes. It's actually a pretty great price for everything that you get. You get 1 credit a month, which is basically the equivalent of a book, which is a free book a month. On all of the other book or reading apps that I have looked at, usually those cost like $20 minimally. Unless it's an older book, then it could be like $10 to $15. So this is a really, honestly, a great deal. It's great for on the go. It is great to just, if you're not sure if you want to like do a long-term thing with Audible, it's a great tester. If you want to just try out a month, that works too. But I have something else. The second link that you will see in the description is the link for my Audible Plus affiliate, and that is a 30-day free trial. You at any point can cancel the subscription if you don't like it, but this gives you access to all of the books, all of the podcasts, and if you do choose to keep going with it, it's a little less than $8 a month. And if you're here like I am for Bridgerton, which we will get into, you would be paying more for Netflix every month than you would for this Audible subscription. So, you know, make sure you check it out, try it, let me know what you think. Let me know if it helps you the same way that it has helped me. I will get into also how it has helped me in those ways. So stay tuned for that. So that being said, the reason I bring up Audible and all of that is because just like the rest of the world, Netflix's Bridgerton has had me in a chokehold for the last, how long have we been at this, y'all? Like 2-3 years. So, and the closer we get to the season 3 premiering this year, the more angsty I have gotten. And that has led me to really hone into that. First off, that series is based off of a series by Julia Quinn called the Bridgerton series. That is a series of 9 books, which follows all 8 of the Bridgerton siblings, the 9th being kind of a wrap-up that gives us a little insight to Violet as well. It's a beautiful story, she's a beautiful character, but honestly, they all are, and we'll get into that as well. There's a lot to this video, so hang tight. If you are into Bridgerton and you're a mom and you really want to fangirl here with me, then stay tuned, stay put. So I received a copy of The Duke and I about 2 Christmases ago. It's a physical copy. I still have it. I cherish it because My child has never touched it. I have a 3-year-old, and I have tried several times to sit down and read it, and it is absolutely impossible. If you are a mother to small children, or if you have toddlers at home, you can understand how impossible it is to sit down on your couch and read a book while children are playing or doing things, or if they're playing outside or you're making meals. So that's kind of where Audible has come in clutch for me. It has allowed me the freedom to be able to do all of my daily tasks while also being able to feel like I have the time for myself and that peace that comes with reading. Before I had my child, I was an avid reader. I loved to read. I had like 2 to 3 books going at a time. I absolutely adored it, but I really was missing that part when I had my daughter. And so Audible has given me that freedom to be able to sit and listen while I'm doing the dishes or folding laundry. Yeah, I said that right. When I tell you I blew through all 9 of those books, I blew through them, and I'm gonna give myself grace here and say 2 months, but I really wanna just tell you 1 month. But it may have been like 2 months. And when I tell you the depth of these characters and these storylines, oh, it is beautifully written, number one, absolutely beautifully written. And it's so much fun to listen to and to read, and even more fun with the series, the Netflix show, because you're sitting there and you're comparing and contrasting, and that is fun for me as well. So if you're into stuff like that, I might go into more videos because I've just been hyper fixating on this, and I'm sure my friends are tired of hearing about it. So this video is not like my other videos. This is definitely not my niche, but if you are a stay-at-home mom and you love books and you kind of want to do like a little mom book club, go ahead and comment. Let me know what you think. Come chat about Bridgerton with me, because if you're like me, you're waiting in angst for season 3. I believe they're wrapping up sometime soon. Netflix hasn't released a date for season 3, but they have released other things that we'll get into in this video too. There's so many things that we're gonna get into in this video, so hang tight. What really attracts me to this series is how much it challenges so many viewpoints. Like in the books, you will see the characters challenging the society that they live in. This takes place in Regency era in England, and so that's probably early 1800s. I believe it ended in 1830s. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Yeah, so that's the time period we're looking at. We're looking at a time of classism. We're talking about, you know, social class issues. We're talking about, you know, prejudices and views and very conservative viewpoints, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word either, but you know, it was a very different time. We'll say that. It was a very different time. So all of these taboo topics that are presented in these books are handled by these characters, and you cannot help but to absolutely love them. It's a magnificent story. Now, if you get over into Netflix's Bridgerton, they also are, you know, they're tackling those same topics, but they're also indirectly tackling topics in today's society that are kind of taboo or challenging us as viewers in ways that we may have never been challenged before. And it kind of allows for us as the viewer to have a little bit of a perspective shift. I can't talk. And I adore that too. I love when creatives do that. So we will talk about that and how you see that within the series as well as the books. So strap in. We'll go through each one. I don't want to get into too much detail because I don't want to give too much away after a while. I will probably make videos about each book and like unpack that and how that relates to the show. If you want to stick around for that, go ahead and like, subscribe. We'll get into all of that. I don't know how many of you actually want to see that, but this is my personal like white whale. This is the thing I've been hyper fixated on for like weeks at this point, because I just find it so interesting between the social dynamic and the depth of the characters and how they handle these situations. It's just brilliant. First, I'm going to talk about some of those challenges that they face in the Regency time frame in the books and why that adds to my love of the books. So we'll start with Daphne. We'll go right in book order. Spoiler warning, I might say something that indicates what may have happened in the books. This is no indication that this will happen in the show, but and I'm not trying to give away spoilers, so if I do slip up a little bit, this is your warning. But I will try very hard not to. But we'll start with Daphne. Daphne is the oldest girl of the Bridgertons, but she is the 4th child. The Bridgertons are known for putting their children in alphabetical order, so that's a nice little fun fact. But with Daphne, what you see, just like in the show, you see this kind of challenge where she was not prepared for marriage in certain aspects. But she also, in other ways, wasn't really prepared for what hate can do and what pain can do and what like sadness can do, how that can take a toll on you as a person and your life aspirations. The common theme with the Bridgertons is that they have not had a whole lot of hardship. They are very well respected. They are very well liked. They come from a very well endowed family. So other than their father passing away before their youngest child was born, they haven't really seen a whole lot of just hardship or heartbreak. And there's certainly like no loss of love amongst that family. They are so full of love and support, and they wholeheartedly believe that love is what outweighs absolutely everything Violet and her husband experienced. Was just absolute true love. And so Violet wants that for all of her children, so she instilled that love into every single one of them. However, Daphne is the oldest daughter, and she has to take on the responsibility of making sure that she makes a good match, which is a heavy, heavy, heavy responsibility. If you know an oldest sibling, or if you are an oldest sibling, you know that there is a level of responsibility. I am not the oldest sibling, I am the youngest sibling, but I do hear about like what it's like to be the oldest sibling, and it seems like a lot of responsibility. But when she meets the Duke, there's a heaviness, there's a grief there's pain in his relationship with his father, and it dictates the decisions that he makes as an adult and what he wants to do with his adult life. And I feel like most of the Bridgertons find themselves in these situations with people in situations that they don't really fully understand, and this is them trying to figure out how to handle those. And so you see Daphne go through this change, this maturity, this level of understanding that she finally gets to, where she realizes what that pain can do. So it's beautiful. It's beautifully written. It's a great way to start the show and the books. Also, just like in the show, we go into book 2, which is Anthony's book, just like Anthony's season is season number 2. And that goes into what it's like being the oldest son. He was the oldest. He was there when his father passed away. There's a lot of grief. There's a lot of trauma there. There's a lot of just turmoil that Anthony is dealing with. In the books, he articulates that he doesn't want a wife that loves him because he saw what it did to Violet, his mother. And that is painful. That's heavy. And the other thing that it gets into in the book that allows us as the reader to see a little more fully those characters is Kate. Kate is I really hope that they get into this in season 3, but Kate has quite a lot of background trauma and grief as well. And that's actually what kind of unites them as a couple. It's what kind of makes them a power couple. They both went through immense grief and loss and ended up stepping up to the plate and taking responsibility and taking on the work that had to go in their family's success. It really gets into kind of the depths of those human emotions and what comes with them and those situations, which is just brilliantly written. It'll tug at your heartstrings quite a bit, but it's beautiful to see because, like I said, these are topics that like not many people really get into. People don't really get into how deep 1 or 2 or 3 emotions can go. Nobody really thinks that far in adult romance novels. Maybe it's just the adult romance novels I read. I don't know. If you disagree, comment that below as well. This is where the show and the book are definitely going to split, because while in the show they are filming and skipping to book 4, which is Colin and Penelope, the books go right into Benedict and his love interest. Now, this is where I'm gonna start being a little like censored because I don't want to give away too much. For those of you who don't want spoilers, I'm gonna work really hard to not give spoilers. But this is where Benedict comes into his love story, and his big challenge, his big like question to himself is that of social class. Now, social class during Regency era was a huge deal. You know, the Bridgertons are part of what is called the ton. You probably hear them refer to it in the show. They also refer to it in the books, but it is short for bon ton, which means well-mannered. So basically, this is the elite. This is the fancy. This is the aristocracy. These are people with money. These are, you know, your celebrities. And to be in the ton is huge. Like, these are people who go to somebody called the modiste because that is their Louis Vuitton. Like, they go and they get like fitted for all of their gowns, all of their clothing. It's all handmade. It's all personalized to them. What Benedict ends up kind of experiencing is this question of, does love outweigh social class? What would happen if I was to challenge that? And he has this beautiful conversation with his mother, and I'll just let you read it. I'll let you read it. But there's a lot of kind of give and take with that as well. Even though Benedict, just like in the show, he's not the most serious. He definitely is not the pickiest. He's not the most you know, turmoiled brother out of all of the Bridgertons, but, you know, he just wants to know, what do I do if it's love? Do I do absolutely everything? Or no? Does social class matter? Do I care about what people think? What do I do? So seeing that give and take is just absolutely beautiful. It's a beautiful little Cinderella story, which, if you're a 90s kid, come on. We all love a good Cinderella story. We've made like 1 billion of them. From there, we're gonna get into book 4, which is actually the season that they're wrapping right now, which is Colin and Penelope. So this is the book that everybody's looking forward to, because obviously Penelope, as we know from the show, is Lady Whistledown. There's already some inconsistencies between the book and the show, but I'm still very excited to see which way they go. But obviously the big challenge is that the thing about Penelope is she is the wallflower. She goes against everything that society tells each other is attractive. Very rarely do people see the clever and the brilliant, and they only see what they can see with their own eyes. And this story is such a beautiful revelation of Colin just seeing something different one day and how that feels. It's very confusing. It's also very different at this point in the series because he describes it as it's not a bolt of lightning. It's not like a shock. He didn't just see her and see, rose colored glasses, kind of situation. It was very slow, and it built and it grew. And he struggles with that because he watched his siblings and his mom fall in love like that. And it's a very different love story. And in that kind of way, it almost makes it a little more special because we all love a good love story, especially for our wallflower friends who, are usually some of the best people that we know. The other thing about Colin and Penelope is that, as you've seen in the show right now, Colin is very charismatic. He's very clever. He's very charming. He's known for his charm amongst the ton. And one thing that he's not known for is his temper. And we get a good glimpse of that in his book. He actually does possess quite a temper. Almost more so in competition with Anthony, I would say. Just very bottled up. And if you've seen the show, haven't you ever wondered why he's always traveling? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, And not for nothing, but even as a human, if you unpack that, nobody likes being mad. Nobody likes feeling those unpleasant things. And in this book, you see Colin dealing with having some of those unpleasant feelings like jealousy and anger, and he can't run from it. He can't just run to Greece because he's feeling jealous or he's feeling upset or he's mad at himself. He has to actually deal with it, and that is when it comes to light that he does possess a temper, and he doesn't really know what to do with it. So that's a very human thing. It's a very dynamic thing. It's a very complicated thing, and I love seeing that in literature, that kind of depth, because it brings a humanity to the character. It brings a place of resonance and a place that we can relate as the audience member. So from there, you go into Eloise's book. Now, Eloise is a spinster up until the age of 28. Her love story does not start until then. I don't want to get too much into it because her storyline is just so beautifully written, and it is such a difference from what you would expect from Eloise's love story. Her story very much focuses on how she feels about corporal punishment and grief, how she deals with the people that she cares about going through grief and depression. There's some pretty heavy notes in her book that really get unpacked, and there's a maturity there that you see from Eloise that we haven't quite seen in the show yet. We're getting there. We see little tidbits of it. We see little sprinkles of it. We see glimpses of who she is as a person. We see her as this fiery, very opinionated, very forward-thinking, very feminist, clever girl. But as of right now in the show, she is still technically in her early 20s, I would say. And she's very freshly on the marriage mart, realistically. And in the books, she has reached 28, and it's a very different side to Eloise. It's a very refreshing thing to see. And like I said, some of the concepts that she tackles in her book are some pretty heavy, pretty wholesome stories that I can't wait to see what they do with. I cannot wait to see what they do with Eloise, because there is a soft place in my heart for Eloise, as I feel like there is for most people. We all love an Eloise. You know, her love interest goes through a lot of grief, goes through a lot of suffering before Eloise enters the picture. And how Eloise handles that is very different from how she handles the situations that we've seen so far in the show. So, I don't know. What do you guys think? After Eloise's book is Francesca's book. Francesca is known as the mysterious Bridgerton sibling, and actually her book is one of my favorites. Francesca is different from the rest of her family in a lot of ways. She is definitely that sibling who loves her family dearly, but can only take so much of them. Whether you are that sibling or you have that sibling, she is just that sibling that can only take her family in small doses. So basically, she gets married, and I don't mind telling you this. This might be a small spoiler, but I don't mind telling you this because this is not her main story. So her story is not based off of her first marriage. Something happens. I'm not going to get into a whole lot about what, but it is what happens after her first marriage, if you catch my drift. And there's a lot that goes into her story. I would say that her story is probably one of the heavier stories, right next to Anthony's. Just very heavy, very, there's a lot of grief there. It does approach child loss. So if that's something that triggers you, you know, just go in being mindful. Ultimately, she learns how to balance love and grief and what that can look like. You know, healing is not easy. If you are on my page for mental health or recovery, I say it all the time, you know, progress is not linear, and that is a beautiful example is Francesca Bridgerton. So I highly suggest you run to Audible to go listen to her story. I do believe with this recasting in season 3 that we are going to start seeing more of Francesca and maybe even getting to know her a little better. I hope we do, but she is very absent from the series as a whole, other than being mentioned outside of her book. Very rarely is she present. She is still an integral part to the Bridgerton clan. Okay, so after that, we have Gregory. He is the last Bridgerton boy, and he's definitely like the baby brother. There's definitely a soft spot in my heart for Gregory, because his siblings have lived by example. They've married for love. They have lived up to the advice given by their parents to just marry for love. So he is ready. Once he meets his love interest, he is rip-roaring ready to go. He is ready for whatever, come what may. I want to marry you, like whatever we can do to make that happen, let's go. Unbeknownst to him, his love interest is going through, basically it's financial abuse. Her family is going through financial abuse situations. They are in a sticky financial situation, and as we all know as adults, that can get very hairy and very complicated, especially back then when, you know, your reputation was everything and your family's reputation was everything. Marriage was a transaction. It was used as a business endeavor and nothing more, and also to carry on your line. That was it. It was not meant for love. It was not meant for, you know, tenderness and caring. It was meant as a business transaction, and that is all. So he catches himself in this situation with somebody who is definitely being financially manipulated, and that gets very hairy very quickly, and how him and his family handle it is very telling on the Bridgertons as a whole, their character, like who they are as people. It's beautiful. If you don't fall in love with all these characters, I would be extremely surprised. And you already are starting to kind of fall in love with Gregory in some of those little moments. Like, he had a moment with Anthony in the actual show where he was looking up at his father and he said, am I anything like him? And Anthony said, yeah, and a little bit like me, you know, basically saying that he was like both of them. So it's cool. I'm really excited to see how these guys bloom and how they grow, especially for the younger guys, or the younger kids, I should say, because they are very different from their older siblings, but also very similar. Like, it's still similar traits, just presented differently, as most families, I guess, can relate. The last Bridgerton is Hyacinth, and honestly, she is probably my favorite. Very much like Eloise, she is very opinionated and very forward thinking and very progressive thinking, but unlike Eloise, she has a little bit of a sharper tongue. She gets herself into trouble quite a lot. She actually ends up being best friends in her like teenage years or like her early 20s with Lady Danbury, who, if you know her from the show, she's a very sharp-tongued lady. I don't know her official title, but she is very intimidating. She is very powerful. She is very respected, but she is also very loud. She's almost very intimidating, very loudmouthed. Lady Danbury used to hit people with her cane, and it is notorious in Hyacinth's book that she took Lady Danbury's cane, and if it was anybody else, Lady Danbury would not have let anybody else get away with it. So it kind of brings this beautiful, refreshing companionship between the two, and it's wonderful. So when Hyacinth is introduced as her love story, everything is very black and white to her. Right is right, wrong is wrong to her, and she doesn't understand why people have to make things more complicated than they are. So for her book and her love interest, you know, their background is very complicated. There's a question of paternity for them, which back then was a huge no-no. You know, there's financial questions. There's also a lineage question. You know, they go on like this little, it's almost like a little like clue game, because they go on this mystery hunt together, and that's wonderful to see, because it wouldn't be Hyacinth if that wasn't the trajectory of the book, because there has to be some type of action and intrigue for her. She has to be stimulated. Hyacinth is notorious for being bored and nosy. So, and you've already seen that in the show. And if you've read any of the Bridgerton books, she is constantly being paid off to either find information or paid off to keep quiet. That is just constant. But she is a good, wholehearted person. And like I said, right is right and wrong is wrong. And when she encounters some of the challenges that she comes to in her book, she really has a hard time wrapping her mind around why things happen the way they happen and to the people that they happen to. So it's really funny. Like, her book is very funny to read because she's just a spitfire. She's a pleasure to read. And you will find a lot. Like, it's kind of like having that friend that always just tells you how it is so bad that it's funny. And so she's probably one of my favorite Bridgerton siblings, honestly, for that reason. But those are the challenges that you see throughout the entire book. You know, these are situations and topics that are discussed and brought about in these books that, you know, you don't really see a whole lot of in adult romance literature. You know, we're just here for the relationships, right? But like this gets more into the depth of human emotion and what can come with some of those heavier topics like trauma and sadness and grief. So I highly suggest you check out the link below, either of them, and just check it out and try it, because I'm hooked on these books. I'm hooked on these books. I keep re-listening to them over and over again, and I find more things to unpack and to enjoy every single time. Especially because I'm hyping myself up for season 3. Speaking of season 3, there are some challenges that are brought up when it comes to the Netflix drama that I want to kind of bring up that I absolutely adore. Like, these are things that up until now as a viewer, you either rarely see it or I've never seen it before as an audience member. And that is huge because it really helps define my experience as an audience member and helps me connect to those characters. So let's get into that, because that's actually a huge thing, especially as I'm reading these books. So first things first, Netflix completely ex-nays any type of traditional casting. This is not based on any historical accuracy or social class, anything like that. Nothing like that. You see people of color painted across this cast list, and it is absolutely stunning and refreshing to see. So, you've got Queen Charlotte, who is played by Golda, and she does an absolutely beautiful job, and she brings such a level of just charisma and poise to the role, while also bringing a depth and humanity to it that is absolutely stunning to see. And between her, Lady Danbury, Kate Sharma, all of these different characters and all of these different roles, is so refreshing to see the representation. I love seeing that. It doesn't take away from the story. I know that this show has received a lot of criticism for it. I personally, as a viewer, adore it because I think it's refreshing. I like seeing the representation. I like seeing it does nothing for the storyline for me. It doesn't change it. It doesn't ruin anything like some of these other people are arguing. If anything, having these actors and actresses take on these roles has proven that they are right and that they are fit for the roles, because I really cannot see anybody else playing, for example, Queen Charlotte, between like the facial expressions she makes when she's reading Lady Whistledown, or as opposed to the faces that she makes when she sees her husband, King George. It's dynamic, it's beautiful, it's raw, and you can't beat it. You cannot beat it, and they have done a brilliant job with this. The other thing that I really liked seeing that isn't seen a whole lot, I mean, we see it a little bit, like we've seen it in Grey's Anatomy and in other places, but they do make references to Alzheimer's and dementia. Now, this is something that I personally like. It hits a soft spot with me because I worked in memory care for 7 years, and I loved my residents. I loved the people that I worked with, and to see that moment when Edwina and the King in season 2 have this connection moment where he is lucid, he's confused, and he is getting very agitated, and you see Edwina step up and get to connect with him about his wife and the love he felt for his wife. Those are the moments in memory care that we live for. Whether they're 5 seconds, 5 minutes, 5 hours, it does not matter. We live for moments like that. And in that moment, the thing that connected that king to reality was the love of his wife. To see that is just, like, you don't see that kind of depth to Alzheimer's and dementia. You see it, you see, you know, actors play having memory problems or Alzheimer's and dementia, but it makes me very excited for Queen Charlotte, which I believe premieres May 4th on Netflix of this year. So make sure that you go and check that out, because I'm hoping that they'll dig more into that backstory between King George and Queen Charlotte, because there's no way that he has that much love for his wife and there's not a huge, beautiful backstory to it. And like I said, that moment really just clicked with me, because the thing that brings our residents back every single time is love. Every single time. Whether it's the love of the caregiver saying, you're safe, I'm here with you, you're safe with me, I'm your friend, or it's a loved one coming in and seeing their face light up when they see their loved one. They might not know your name, they might not know your birthday, but they know that you love them. And so this is something that just as a viewer is very refreshing to see. I love seeing that population be represented, because I just don't feel like it's very well represented or talked about that much, because back then it was very taboo to talk about that stuff. Mental health issues, memory issues, people were sent away in Regency era. They were sent to the insane asylum or whatever. People locked people away for things like that. So to see it presented and see it be shown to us as an audience, it tickles my heart a little bit. One of the things that they tackle in the show that is actually not in the books is pregnancy out of wedlock. So we see this with Marina Townsend. She is in love with, I believe it's George Crane, who is killed in battle, and she is pregnant and unmarried. And we get to see how the Bridgerton characters would react to somebody like that. And almost none of them react in a judgmental way like most of the Ton does, which is beautiful as far as character development and what kind of people we are dealing with. So seeing that represented is beautiful, because it represents everything that goes against what is proper at the time. And we see that a lot in today's society too. We as moms still hear that you're a little young, or should you be doing that, like mom shaming basically. No, you shouldn't do that. You should get married, you should have a kid, you should do this. And me personally, my advice is to just do what's best for you. Nobody can tell you how to live your life, but it really just highlights. I liked that, and I liked putting that in here because, like I said, it was a really good development point for the Bridgerton siblings, because like you see Penelope and Eloise try to figure out how a woman becomes pregnant. You get to see Colin step up and say, you know what, no, like I want to do the right thing by you. It wouldn't have mattered if you had just told me the truth. Basically, you just see these genuinely kind, non-judgmental people who care about the people that they care about. And I love that they showed that in this show. Like I said, that's not a plot point in the books, but it was fun to see, because it did set us up for some of those characters that we may see later. And I'll just leave it at that. So probably one of my most favorite things that they put in, and it is going back to that representation, is Kate. So in the second Bridgerton book, Kate Sheffield, who was changed to Kate Sharma in the show, is Irish. Her family is Irish, and she is said to have curly dark hair. Her sister is said to be blonde and just the stereotypical, very beautiful sister who Kate is always compared to. In the show, however, she is changed to Kate Sharma, and with that comes a whole culture change. She is from India, and her whole family is from India, which there's a lot of heritage and culture that Netflix was able to put in. Mind you, this is all with Cieri-Adkins' consent and knowledge, and which I think is very cool, that she's just like, yes, let's put that in there. I want that representation. So I made some notes. Give me 1 second. Sorry, I just really did not want to mess this up because it was beautiful to see. It's very refreshing to see. I am from a podunk town in upstate New York, and this is not representation that I saw every day. I think I had met one person or one family from India, and I wasn't very close with them, so I didn't really get to see some of those cool cultural aspects. So let's get into that. First off, they used great language with it. They used a lot of terms that you would hear from an Indian family, such as Abba, Papa. You would hear Bon or Didi, which I can't remember what those terms mean, but they are Indian terms that is commonly heard. I know Abba means father, so that was all very accurate. The other thing, probably the biggest thing, and one of my favorite things that was seen was the haldi ceremony. If I'm saying that wrong, please correct me in the comments. But that was that pre-marriage ceremony that we saw with the kind of clay-looking thing that they were spreading all over. That is made with turmeric oil and water, and it's done amongst families as a family tradition for the new bride. The other thing that we see a lot is the jewelry. A good example of that is Kate's bangles that she wore to Edwina's wedding. This is all traditional jewelry that can be found in the Indian culture. And like I said, this whole take on it was so refreshing to see, because you don't see it. I don't think I've ever seen it ever. Not in that depth. So I could probably go on for a hot minute about all of the things that I saw that I looked up, or that really sparked my interest, or that I just thought were genuinely beautiful because they were just from a different culture that was not in the books, but it didn't take away from the story in the least. And I love that for Netflix. I love that they have taken the opportunity to really rope in that inclusivity and really take a stand on representing different cultures, different people, different storylines, and different social aspects that we otherwise as viewers would not see. Like I said, I have never seen a haldi ceremony. I have never seen any parts of it. This was a fantastic thing to add in. And it's really kind of beautiful seeing how the actors talk about it as well, because, they knew that they were doing something astronomical. If you're still watching, number one, I really appreciate you. Thank you. If you are interested in discussing it with me, or you want to read the books, go ahead and check out my description in the bottom. I have those two options that you can check out, whichever one works best for you. But I would really like a chance to discuss this stuff with you. I love how deep these characters, I love the dynamic of the situations that they face. It gets very hairy, and it's written very brilliantly. It really unpacks humanity, and I just can't get enough of it. And hopefully maybe it'll have a chokehold on you the way that it has on me, both in the books but also in the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you are interested, and don't forget to check out those links. Reminder that Audible Plus will be free for 30 days if you want to go check that out. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend, and I hope you have a great week coming up, and I will see you very soon.